Recently, we got a really interesting interview with Kevin Drew about all things Black Ops 6 Zombies and beyond. I will leave a link to the full interview in this video's description. I'm sure you've probably already seen it, but if not, go ahead and check it out. But in this video, I want to focus on one particular point, and that is regarding why the red eye color was chosen for the zombies on Mob of the Dead and then future maps subsequently. Of course, at the time, we had only received the yellow eyes symbolizing Samantha in control of the zombies and the blue eyes symbolizing Richtofen in control. So this was a big change to the status quo. I will tackle all of the other topics that Kevin Drew talked about in this interview in a future video. Nevertheless, the answer regarding the red eyes on Mob of the Dead specifically will surprise you.
When it got to zombies, it was sometimes our personal touches are accidental. When we were working on Black Ops 2, we were like a new team working on it, and we hadn't quite caught up with all of the rules yet. And so when we were determining the eye color for Mob of the Dead, a producer got asked like what color to make them, and he's just like, I don't know, red. And then with Q2, like we released the trailer, and the community is like, what is this third faction? What do the red eyes mean? And we're like, oh, okay. That was like the way
accident. Intentional.
Yes. Yeah, totally. It worked out.
So essentially, there was no specific reason, seemingly, for why the red eyes were chosen on Mob of the Dead, but seemingly a producer just thought it looked cool. Now, we don't actually know who this producer is because he never references them by name, but I think this is Jason Blundell. I could be wrong here, but the reason why I'm saying this is because basically they had a different crew under Jimmy Zielinski working on the other Black Ops 2 Zombies maps apart from Mob of the Dead as well as Origins, because what happened was the campaign crew, after they finished Black Ops 2's campaign, could then start working on Zombies, and the campaign crew, which was being led by Jason Blundell, then worked on Mob of the Dead and Origins, revolutionizing Zombies for the foreseeable future. So I think maybe it was Jason Blundell who chose the red eyes, but I could be wrong about this, of course. Now, I've seen many people in my comment section saying that because Kevin says the red eye color was not chosen for any particular reason, this means there is nothing in the storyline that actually gives a reason for the red eyes. But that's not exactly what Kevin Drew is saying. He's just saying that the initial idea came about just due to pure randomness. There was no mythology behind the madness. However, once the trailer released for Mob of the Dead, all of the fans started speculating, and that's when they've in the future retroactively made it make sense in the storyline. The red eyes do mean something in the zombie story, but like I said, why they were initially chosen was not because they had any particular plan in mind. Now, of course, Mob of the Dead, when it released, seemed like a very self-contained story. It didn't play into the overarching Call of Duty Zombies storyline, so it makes sense they were just trying to do something different for this map, and maybe when they initially came up with it, it probably wasn't going to tie into the overall storyline, but again, they probably retroactively inserted it into the overall Ether story after the fact. And to be honest, this is probably how a lot of things have come about in the zombie storyline, just due to pure random things like this, just because someone thought something sounded or looked cool, or maybe fans were speculating about something that was never actually planned to be something, and then they just ran with it, because that's in fact how Samantha Maxis was born in the first place. Fans speculated that some of the zombie noises in Agdaruntoten sounded like they were saying Sam, and that's what gave them the idea to run with that. So yeah, Kevin Drew saying this doesn't mean there's no reason behind the red eyes, it just means that when they were chosen initially, there wasn't any reason, but they have retroactively made it make sense. Now, I do also want to say, beyond the red eyes just looking cool, it makes complete sense for Mob of the Dead, considering it's literally set in purgatory, for them to be red eyes. Thematically, red makes complete sense beyond any further meaning than this. So maybe there was a bit more to it than it just looking cool. It could just simply be, it looked cool, but also it's literally purgatory, so red ties in completely. With that being said, I've already posted a long video going over every single eye color in Zombies and what I think they represent. So I'm going to take the segment from that video talking about the red eyes to play for you now if you haven't already seen that video, and I suggest after you are done watching this video to watch the full thing in this video's description, because Treyarch have given us many indications for what the red eyes mean, which is why I say there is meaning to the red eyes. It's just that, like I said, when it was initially concepted, there was no method behind it. It was chosen at random because it looked cool, but over the years they've expanded further on that lore, so I'll play that clip for you now. For the red eyes, probably the most contentious debate in the community. First introduced in Mob of the Dead, the red eyes have by far been the most enigmatic. In fact, it wasn't until Black Ops 4 that we really got some decent information to even make a guess about what the red eyes meant.
You have made progress, Dr. Lehman.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, as you know, our success with the undead experimentation has been limited.
Yes, we've achieved the same benchmarks as Max's, but as with his trials, they refuse to obey orders.
That's right. We can't control them. We can't make them docile. But I believe I've cracked it.
I'm listening.
Okay, last month, our man inside the Ascension group sent us copies of Dr. Richtofan's diary. Now, I've been poring over it, following his research, and...
That doesn't seem very docile to me.
Just watch. Stand back, Dr. Schuster. I promise you, it's quite safe. Walk!
Incredible. It's completely subservient. How did you achieve this?
Well, I vaporized element 115, brought it to a gaseous state. The specimen inhaled it.
Inhaled it?
And unfortunately, it had to be done while the specimen was still alive.
While they were still alive? Good heavens, man, did you...
Look, the soldier was going to die anyway. Doctor? Are you all right?
Oh, my apologies, Layman. I'm distracted by the eyes. They're yellow.
From the very end of this radio in Classified, we hear that Dr. Schuster, Richtofan's closest ally from the Group 935 days, now working for the US government, is surprised to see that the zombies' eyes are yellow. Given this fact, we can assume that, during all of their initial trials at Der Riese, they were a different colour, but we cannot say for sure as to which. Then, in Tag der Toten, we have recordings from Jeb Brown, a blacksmith from Purgatory Point, the town that eventually became buried underground, who would go on to manufacture the Pack-a-Punch machine. You can hear more about that again in that recent video I made going over some facts from the Ether storyline. Jeb Brown encountered a man who, after being exposed to element 115 in the town's mine, had become a zombie and killed Jeb's mother. Specifically, Jeb describes the zombified Clive Farnsworth as having eyes blazing with a red light. This seems to tell us that when there is no control whatsoever over the zombies, and they are not following any particular will or force, they default to red. There is another aspect to this as well. In Mob of the Dead and Blood of the Dead, we see that the zombies are under the control of the Warden. This was uncertain in the original Mob of the Dead, as the Samantha voiceover was used for the power-ups. However, once Blood of the Dead came out, this was changed to be Brutus. So we can assume that he is in total control of Alcatraz. This makes sense as we know that Alcatraz is a pocket dimension. The same argument is true for Revelations and Tag der Toten. In both instances, either the Shadow Man or Dr. Monty respectively would be pursuing Primus actively, through their own direct control, without the need for any external devices like the MPD or external forces in the case of the Orange Eyes. Therefore, I believe that the Red Eyes also signify the direct control of a single individual. This is further supported by, of all things, Vanguard Zombies, wherein the zombies who are controlled directly by Cortifex or Von List have bright red eyes. Grod Krovi is somewhat contentious. In terms of date, Zetsubo no Shima occurs before Der Eisendrache, in terms of the timeline of that universe. So the moon is still there, with Grod Krovi happening after. This could explain the red eyes, as a destroyed moon would mean no MPD, and therefore no connection to the Dark Ether. But this is a bit contradictory. The Black Ops 3 maps all occur in their own fractures, so whether or not the moon's destruction occurred here is uncertain, and probably not even likely. Most likely in Zetsubo no Shima, these events never transpire. After all, there's an endless amount of possibilities in the multiverse, and Primus were dimension hopping. Furthermore, given the ideas established in the previous section about Orange Eyes, the destruction of the MPD shouldn't have had any bearing anyways. There are two explanations here that can work. Either the fracture is so distorted through the actions of Primus in the previous maps that many of the mechanics behind the Ether and the Dark Ether don't even work anymore. For just a small example, in the Grod Krovi fracture, World War II is essentially endless and technology has progressed at an extremely fast rate, and they have therefore reverted to the default red colour. Or that the Warden or the Shadow Man, having detected Primus when they enter Alcatraz briefly to collect the blood vials, now have a lock on Primus's location and are sending their personal forces of undead after them. Grod Krovi has always been a thorn in the side of anyone trying to theorise about eye colour, and even the explanations offered for it here aren't airtight. It could also be that Dr. Monty was in control on this map. Of course, he spoke to the characters throughout on the map via the Wisps, and he wanted us to fail to break the cycle. Them dying on Grod Krovi would just start another cycle, which would save the whole hassle of having to go to Revelations, and Dr. Monty would just repeat the cycle regardless. And after all, the Shadow Man and Dr. Monty used to be one entity when the Ether was first born, known as the One but split into two. They are two sides of the same worm, so it would make sense that when either or are in control, the eyes are red. So really the Apothicon / the Shadow Man or what Dr. Monty / the Keepers could be in control in Gorod Krovi, it really doesn't matter. I assume that regardless of which faction is in control or which individual, Monty or the Shadow Man is in control, both are red. That's why they are red on Revelations, with the Shadow Man controlling them there. Similarly, on Tag der Toten, the red eyes could symbolize Dr. Monty / the Keepers being in control, or the Apothicons, both of which of course didn't want the multiverse to collapse. Of course, the Shadow Man was technically still within the summoning key at this point, and never managed to escape since Gorod Krovi was never able to happen in this broken cycle. However, since he was able to speak to the characters through the summoning key, we can assume that he might have still been able to talk with the Keepers and command them. Either way, the Apothicons would have been working for him. Regardless, it doesn't really matter. And on the prior map, Alpha Omega, we stopped Dr. Monty and thought we were going to head to the Great War. Samantha even says that she will burn the house to the ground.
We're going to fight the war, Eddie. The Great War. Then, we're going back to the house to kill him and burn it all to the ground.
Maybe that just happened off screen and Dr. Monty sent the hordes to come get us. Then again, the Apothicons are also on the map, and the Apothicon blood, which is physically alive. And at the end of Tag der Toten, we know that the Apothicons and Keepers reform back together as the one, like they were at the start of the storyline. From this, for all we know, the zombies on the map could be literally either or potentially even both in control. I don't think it really matters that much. In summary, the Red Eyes on Mob of the Dead and Blood of the Dead we know is the Warden / Brutus that is in control, but the Warden is being controlled by the Shadow Man / the Apothicons, so he's just using the Warden to control them essentially. On Gorod Krovi, it could be Dr. Monty or the Shadow Man, but I'm leaning towards it being the Shadow Man in control, considering it happens after they collect the blood vials from Alcatraz, and it seems very likely that the Warden / the Shadow Man would have then sent hordes to try and stop them afterwards. But it could very well be Monty as well. Revelations is then definitely the Apothicons again, due to the Shadow Man taking control of that realm, Agartha. Tag der Toten again could be the Keepers or the Apothicons, it doesn't really matter which. Either way, Red Eyes are probably the same for both. Let me know if you agree with my thesis on the Red Eyes in the comment section down below. Anyways, with that being said, thank you for watching the video, make sure to subscribe if you're not here for the latest and greatest Call of Duty news and information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye.